Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here tonight and for hearing all of us candidates. Question 1. Absolutely, yes. As a member of the government that facilitated that referendum, I recognise the importance of these basic rights back then. The 2016 removal of these rights and the community distress since has only served to reinforce my resolve to push for a better system. Since the abolition of the Assembly, I have continued to petition relevant Australian politicians and submitted comment on draft legislation being imposed upon the island and submitted to the Joint Standing Committee hearing recently. I hear no option but to counteract this domination of this island, and the reform this Governance Committee will be addressing has been hard won by the efforts of many, and it is an opportunity we must use to its full potential. The removal of controls on immigration was to me one of the most alarming and damaging initiatives imposed by the Commonwealth Government. A remote island as small as Norfolk Island cannot embrace the standard economic goal of perpetual growth. This applies to population levels as well as to much of the consequential development needed to support an increasing population. Any changes to immigration would need to be carefully developed and fair. Reining in open immigration poses no threat to those who have demonstrably settled here since 2016. The Governance Committee will not be developing future immigration policy, but it is their role to ensure immigration is adequately considered and that the new Norfolk Island Government has the authority to determine an effective population control system. A related area of concern is the offshore outsourcing of local government jobs and projects. It is crucial that Norfolk Island fosters local employment and that government policies are designed to create opportunities for residents. Not only should the immigration moratorium be sought, but also all non-essential projects should be postponed until those can be considered by the new Norfolk Island Government. As per an outgoing government going into caretaker mode. It is inappropriate that so many projects and decisions are being undertaken while there is no elected representative body to consider the costs and benefits of each proposed project. Question 3. I see it as unrealistic to expect the Commonwealth Government to relinquish all control. Setting clear responsibilities for all stakeholders is a vital component of this process to ensure stability. Each Norfolk Island Legislative Assembly was aware of the Commonwealth exerting its influence and at times overriding decisions made. For example, appeals against immigration decisions were at times overturned by the Commonwealth. Establishing financial accountability processes, anti-corruption measures, and the commitment to fairness and equity in all levels of government activity and service delivery will leave no excuse for another abolition of government. Better dialogue with the Commonwealth, along with a more proactive response to the inevitable assessments, reports and inquiries the Commonwealth will invoke, will also be essential. It will be important to negotiate agreement that any required compliance costs stemming from any new international agreements Australia signs up to are not expected to be borne by this small community. Question 4. The Norfolk Island Legislative Assembly was established to govern the equivalent of 3 Australian levels of government: local government, state government and Commonwealth government. One of the most significant questions for this community is, do we seek to return to raising revenue to fund all of the function of the Norfolk Island Legislative Assembly was responsible for? I believe the Commonwealth stance will be we remain in their tax system and that they would remain responsible for the delivery of health, education and social services at least. Much of the legislation established over the 30 plus years of the Norfolk Island Legislative Assembly remains in place today. So it would be logical that the new government should be structured along similar lines to the former. a body of, say, 3 executives and 4 non-executives. The precise role of executives and non-executives should be a matter for the Governance Committee to work through and develop as details are defined. Question 5. The 3 most relevant models of Norfolk Island governance to us today are the Norfolk Island Council, the Legislative Assembly, and the Norfolk Island Regional Council. The Norfolk Island Council was flawed due to a lack of autonomy. This system vested all decision-making in a succession of Australian government-appointed administrators, some effective and reasonable, and others less so. An external origin person deciding whether he will or won't accept the advice and guidance of a council comprised of long-term representatives was destined to disagreement and failure. The Norfolk Island Legislative Assembly functioned longer than any previous Norfolk governance system. In hindsight, there were things that might have been done differently, but with some refinement, it is still a model worthy of building the new model on. Poor advice to the responsible Commonwealth Department led them to push the island to a process they called normalisation with Australian governments. Much of the reform appeared to be based on reports released through the years that lacked accuracy but were not adequately denounced. Initially, the department claimed to be strengthening self-government through a reform package they called the Roadmap for Reform, but then guided the Australian Parliament to abolish and replace the Norfolk Island Legislative Assembly with what we now know as the Norfolk Island Regional Council, or NIGC. Despite the massive financial cost the Commonwealth spent on the takeover, NIGC was doomed to failure from the outset. The divide between the NIGC elected and their administrative staff, the systemic withholding of information from elected members, no apparent accountability to the community, and being based on laws designed for areas within a large state rather than a small isolated island ensured NIGC's failure. The fly-in, fly-out of NIGC senior personnel and the Brisbane-based NIGC office arrangement has added to a lack of access and accountability to the community. All issues with NIGC are structural, not a reflection on the employees at the coalface. Question 6. Definitely self-determination along the lines of the Norfolk Island Legislative Assembly has the structure and flexibility needed to take on the range of responsibilities necessary.
7.5.
Self-government facilitates connection with the community and provides greater flexibility to raise revenue and to retain functions such as quarantine that could all be more easily returned to Norfolk Island. Question 7. A proven commitment to the good of this island and its people, tenacity combined with long-term experience of government departments, experience as a government minister in the Norfolk Legislative Assembly, and experience in other government advisory committees. Question 8. The community must be given opportunity to vote their approval when a model is developed, and should also have an opportunity to have input on key